Hey, while we're waiting for a couple of people to come in the chat room, I put a survey in the chat room. If you just click on that link, just tell me whether you're planning on coming back to campus next week, yes, no, or I'm not sure. You're not held to it. I'm just trying to make plans in terms of seating. So if you click on that link in the chat room, just put yes, no, or I'm not sure. As I said, I'm not even going to track. I'm just going to see about a seating arrangement depending on how many we have Tuesday, how many we have Wednesday, just so that we're ready to go. So if you could do that, that would be great while we wait for our friends to join us. Okay, for those of you that just came in, there's a link in the chat room. Click on that link and let me know what your thoughts are in terms of returning to campus next week so I can put some sort of seating arrangement together for each of your periods. Okay, so to check to make sure that I didn't miss anybody, still no Adrian, right? Still no Valerie? Still no Melanie? Okay. Griffin, I emailed you twice yesterday with responses to your questions, so check your email and get back to me on the concerns you had there about your Aries account. Also, if you just got in, make sure that you use the link in the survey or link in the chat room, excuse me, to fill out that survey on whether you're planning on coming back or not next week to campus. You're not held to it. I just need to know in terms of desk arrangement, things like that, what your thoughts are, so I make sure that I have everything the way that it's supposed to be. We'll go ahead and get started so we can get you finished and out of here. All right, how about now, Alyssa? All righty, so happy Tuesday to you. As I said yesterday, this week we're going to go over demand, what demand is, what demand looks like. And so we will basically be taking a look at how our economy operates from the point of view of consumers. So basically it's going to be a one-sided view of how consumers act and react in our economic system based off of things that are going on with them, how much money they make, pay raise, loss of job, what the prices of products are, different things like that. So we're going to talk about that from the point of view of a consumer. Next unit, we'll then flip and we'll talk about from the point of view of business. But basically what we're talking about is two sides of the circular flow model, right? When we talk about one side, right, we have households. We talk about the other side, we're talking about businesses. So when we look at this, as I said, we're going to talk about this from the point of view of consumers. So the household side of our economic system. And then next unit, we'll talk about from the point of view of business. So basically, what are consumers doing in terms of our economic system, right? And it's just one side of the circular flow model. That's all it is. So if you wanted a picture of what we're looking at, this unit, this would be it, right? This would be it. We would be looking at this side of the economic system, just one, right? And we'll go through in terms of what demand means, graphic illustrations of that, and a number of different things that we have. All right, so go ahead and click on Module 13. All right, so as I said, what we're going to take a look at is our economic system from the point of view of consumers. So you're going to want to understand what drives consumers' buying decisions in our market. You want to be able to read a demand schedule and demand curve and explain what those mean, and we'll go over that. We'll also talk about a market curve as well as a market schedule as it relates to demand. Understand what is the relationship in our economic system between price and the quantity demanded of goods and services by consumers. Understand what would affect consumers' demand for particular products. And then finally, we'll talk about what is elasticity. So when we talk about elasticity as it relates to price, what does that mean for us in this economic system? So a couple of things to look at when we talk about demand in our system. All right. Understand that consumers' buying decisions determine demand, and that is simply the quantities of good or service that customers will buy at a particular price point during a given period of time. Could be a day, could be a week, could be a month. Depends on how you want to measure that. You want to be able to read and understand demand schedules and demand curves. It's very simple. And then understand the relationship between price and quantity demanded. So here, what we did was just put up some of the terms from this unit. Demand is how much of a good or service consumers are willing to purchase at various prices. A demand schedule is a table of those purchases. A demand curve is basically a graphic representation or a picture of those purchases. And then what the law of demand says would make logical sense to you, right? As the price of a product, can be any product, right? Could be a bottle of Coca-Cola. As the price of a product goes up, right, there are going to be fewer and fewer people that are going to be willing to buy that bottle of Coke, right? So if soda on campus was selling for $1, you may have 100 people want to buy that soda. If it goes up to $2, you may only have 75 that want to buy it. It goes up to $3, maybe only 50. There's going to be a certain price point where nobody's going to buy a bottle of soda, right? You wouldn't buy a bottle of soda for $10 unless, you know, you're in the middle of the desert, parched and about to die, I guess, but I can't see anybody paying that much. The other thing that you want to consider as it relates to demand is that there comes a point where so much of good is only going to give you less and less satisfaction, right? So you may have the best slice of pizza that you've ever had in your life, but after 5, 6, or 7 slices, right, you would start to get sick to your stomach. And so the satisfaction you get from a particular product is known as utility. And the more that you buy of a good or service, generally the less satisfaction that you get out of that. And then a couple of other things that affect demand are going to be income effect and substitution effect. And we'll talk about both of those and what that means. But basically it has to do with the products that are available and the amount of money consumers have available at their disposal, right? What somebody who makes $200,000 a year buys is different than what somebody who makes $40,000 a year buys. And that's all that that's saying in terms of what we have. Let me reset this so you can see this. Okay, so in this instance here, what we've done is create a demand schedule for hot fudge sundaes. And all that is listed here basically is what would happen if hot fudge sundaes sold for different prices. And so as you can see, all this is a table. And what you have then, at $2, nobody buys hot fudge sundaes. At $1.80, you're gonna have 2 of them sold. $1.64 and $1.46, At $1.20, you have 8 sold. At $1.10, at 80 cents, you have 12. At 60 cents, you have 14. So there's a couple of things going on here. As the price is dropping, right? As the price is dropping, what's happened to the quantity that are being purchased? Right? They're going up. So the law of demand is in effect. And basically all this is a table showing what happens, right, in terms of hot fudge sundaes. And as I said, this is the point of view of consumers. The lower the cost of the hot fudge sundae, the more hot fudge sundaes that people will buy, right? And it asks you here, right, if the price fell to 40 cents, how many hot fudge sundaes? Well, we had $1, there'd be 10, 80, there'd be 12, 60, there'd be 14. So at 40 cents, we'd expect there would be 16, right? So what you do and what you can do in terms of having this work out is basically put all of that information into a graphic representation. So a couple of things here to consider. When you look at how we're doing this. So basically what we have, right, in a demand schedule, what we have is price and the quantity demanded. Price is always going to be on the left. Quantity demanded is always going to be on the right. And in this case, we had hot fudge sundaes, right? So we had a price of $2. We had a price of $1.80, $1.60, $1.40, $1.20, $1.80, 60. We could go on and on and on, right? We had corresponding quantity demanded for each of those, right? At $2, we had 0. Then we had 2. Then we had 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. That's why we said at basically 40 cents, we could expect 16 hot fudge sundaes to be sold. So the next thing we're going to look at is a demand curve. Your demand curve is going to come straight from your demand schedule. But what I want you to see, because a demand schedule is basically 1/4 of a math graph, right? Here we have our y-axis. Over here, we have our x-axis. And so when you look at this, what I want you to understand is that this area here is going to be the demand schedule, but what you're looking at is 25% of a math graph, right, that you guys have seen from early years in terms of math, right? So this is the y-axis here, up and down. This is the x-axis. And then in the middle, we all know that the middle here is the origin, and what's the origin's value? On a math graph, the origin's value is what?
0.
0, 0, exactly. All right. So the reason that we only show 25% is because you can't have a negative good, right? We couldn't take a pizza and make it a negative 25%. So the reason that we have this in this quadrant, right, is because when we look at this, we know that it has to be positive. $2, right, may have no hot fudge sundae sold, right, but we can't have negative hot fudge sundaes sold. So when I show you the next screen, this is what I wanted you to understand. Basically, all we're doing is we're taking the price point and generally putting it here. and then we take the quantity demanded point and also put it there. So these points here, $1.80 may be here, 2 may be here, $1.60 would be here, 4 would be out here. All we're doing is creating a graph. That's all we're doing. And I wanted you to see that it's 25% of what a normal math graph, what you guys do normally in terms of math. And so what you'll have, right, is the creation of, at $2, there are 0 hot fudge sundaes sold. At $1.80, there may be 2. $1.60, there may be 4. $1.40, there may be 6. $1.20, there may be 8. $1, there may be 10. And you can see here that what we have going is basically, right, just the creation of a curve. Of course, I didn't draw that very straight. Any questions on that portion? Okay, so I just wanted to illustrate that for you. So demand schedule is a table illustrating the price points and the quantity demanded of a particular product. Could be pizza, could be soda, could be hot fudge sundaes, could be whatever you want. This is a demand curve. And as I said, these points here, $2 and 0 is represented by that point right there. $1.80 and 2, $1.60 and 4, $1.40 and 6, $1.20 and 8, $1 and 10, 80 and 12, 60 and 14. At 40 cents, we'd expect there to be 16. You put the dots corresponding from your demand schedule here, connect the dots, and that creates your demand curve. And all that does is represent how much would be purchased at various prices. It asks you here, how many hot fudge sundaes would Rod purchase at $1.70? So from this store, right, we know that at 40 cents here, we would expect there to be 16 sold. And what they're asking you is at $1.70, right, we would expect how many to be sold? What's halfway between 2 and 4?
3.
3, thank you. So 3 hot fudge sundaes we'd expect to be sold at the halfway point between $1.60 and $1.80, which is $1.70. So that's all that we're working with in terms of a demand schedule, demand curve. It's nothing too complicated. It just gives a basically picture with numbers and graphs. We can do the same thing for an entire market. The only difference between a demand schedule and demand curve and a market schedule and a market curve is the number of businesses that are included. In a market schedule, basically, we take all of the hot fudge sundaes, or all of the places, more appropriately, that sell hot fudge sundaes in that neighborhood. And so what you see then is a great increase on the amount that's demanded. Notice that the price points here, though, stay the same, right? The price points here would stay the same. And so basically, if you wanted to do this for Santa Maria, you would look at Baskin-Robbins, one of the maybe yogurt creations, Dairy Queen in the mall. Basically, that's what a market schedule is. If we added up all of the places that sold hot fudge sundaes at each of those price points, how many would be purchased? That's the only difference between a regular demand schedule, demand curve, and a market schedule, market curve. Any questions on that? Okay. So, all right, go ahead and click on the next page. And what we have here is a scenario based on demand. It says you're 23 years old and you're looking to buy a brand new car. You're not going to be able to pay cash, so you plan to finance the vehicle with an auto loan that has a 4% interest rate. You plan to sell your old Toyota Camry on Craigslist to get the down payment for the loan. You're going to car dealerships today and you read this article about depreciation. Basically, it says our data show that cars lose more than 10% of their value during the first month after you drive off the lot. So that means if you bought a car for $100,000, 1 month later, it's only going to be worth $90,000. That's how much value you're going to lose in your car. The amount your car is worth will keep falling too. According to current depreciation rates, the value of a new vehicle can drop by more than 20% after the first 12 months of ownership. Then for the next 4 years, you can expect your car to lose roughly 10% its value annually. That means that a new car can be worth as little as 40% of its original purchase price after 5 years. Luxury cars and cars from certain well-regarded mainstream brands can hold their value better than others simply because of reputation or the fact that they are seen as a safe or reliable vehicle would be another thing that might influence people who purchase those cars that are used. All right. And so one of the things that you'll do this week is answer these questions based on that. Does this article increase or decrease your demand for a new car? Why and why not? Don't forget to CC yourself on your answer. Oh, it might not be open. That's a good call. I'll have to see. Let's see if that's open. Yep, it should be open. April 12th. So you talking about this one, Trevor, or the survey that I sent? Survey you got in. Case study says it's open. I'll have to see why. Oh well. Oh, determines the demand I might not have opened yet, just because we haven't gotten there. Okay. So go ahead and click on the next page, and we're going to talk about things that determine demand that aren't related to price. Okay, Trevor, try it now. I think that should have fixed it. Oops, went one too far. Sorry, hold on. Okay. So what are some of the things that will affect the demand for a particular product that has nothing to do with price. And so we're going to talk about determinants of demand. These are things that will determine how much of a good or service is purchased by individuals, consumers, as we said, this entire unit, that has nothing to do with the price of that particular product. So we'll talk about 4 factors that can change demand, understand how changes in demand and the changes affect, right, the number of products that are basically purchased. So when we look at the 4 things that can change demand outside of a price, right, we know the price is the biggest determinant of demand. These are the 4 right here. A change in income. As I said at the beginning, right, somebody that makes $40,000 a year probably buys different products, a different amount of products than somebody that makes $200,000 a year. So when you are finished with college or trade school or your job training, military, whatever it is, 4 or 5 years from now, your buying power is going to be way more than it is now. And that's going to change your demand for certain products. Attitude is also important, right? Had the news come out about the Johnson & Johnson vaccine being put on pause because there have been 6 cases of blood clots out of the 7 million vaccine doses that have been given, right? So that is going to change the demand for people wanting that product, right? That there is, you know, less than basically 1 in 1/10% chance that you'll get blood clots from that vaccine. Changes in the price of a complementary product. When gasoline a few years ago went up to $4.50 a gallon, $4.75 a gallon, people stopped buying fewer and fewer SUVs, right? So when you have 2 products that go together, if the price of one of those products raises exorbitantly, people stop buying SUVs, as in the case of gasoline. And then the changes in the price of a substitute product. Substitute products are one product that you can use in replace of another. Butter and margarine would be a very good example of that. If for some reason, not trying to be cruel, right, or inhumane, but let's say a tornado or a series of tornadoes goes through the Midwest, wipes out every dairy cow that we have in this country, right? If you don't have any dairy cows, you can't produce milk, right? Without the milk production, you don't have cheese, you don't have butter, you don't have all of those dairy products. And basically, right, the cost of butter would skyrocket. Well, more people would go then to margarine because it's generally made out of vegetable oil, canola oil, something like that. So those are 4 ways that products can change based off of something besides the price of that product. And so when we look at these products, there are 2 types of products as it relates to changing incomes. There's normal goods and inferior goods. Normal goods, you'll see the demand go up as income goes up. Generally cars, houses, appliances, things like that are normal goods. Inferior goods are goods for which demand goes down as income goes up. So as you make more money, right, the level of those products that you buy goes down because your income has increased. Attitudes, as we said, things become popular, things become unpopular based on information. Examples every day of this: clothing and music, right? What was popular 5 years ago may not be popular now. What was popular a year ago may not be popular now. It just depends. And then we talked about substitute goods. One that you can put in another. Butter and margarine, CDs and the old cassette tapes. You now have substitute products in terms of digital files and DVDs. So when DVDs become more cumbersome than a digital file, you see the price of those DVDs go from, say, $20, $25 for a movie down to $5, right? You can walk through Walmart and walk through that bin and pick those things up. Changing price of complementary products, those are things that go together. Automobiles and gasoline is a great example of that. Paper and pen with a pencil or a pen would be an example of that. Television and electricity. And then what you see is, depending upon these 4 determinants of demand, you'll see the entire demand curve shift to the left if demand decreases, or shift to the right if demand increases. And that should make sense based on this, right? When we look at a demand curve, we know that this is our origin 0, 0. This Johnson & Johnson vaccine pause, right? If original demand of 7 million vaccines was here, we now, because of the pause and the concerns about blood clots, we're going to see the demand for that Johnson & Johnson vaccine decrease. On the other hand, right, because of the attitude of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, Moderna and Pfizer will see their demand go up, right? If you have 3 options for a vaccine, you take one of them away, you only have 2, you're going to see the other 2 probably skyrocket off of that. Questions on that? Okay. So why don't you take 5 minutes, as I said, if you have not filled out that survey that I sent a link to on what you're thinking about next week, so that I can put and arrange proper seating. Go ahead and fill that out, but take 5 minutes. You can go get a drink of water, use a restroom, whatever you need, and we'll see you back here at Alrighty, so to finish up real quick, I just want to go over basically what happens when demand changes. So we've talked about what demand is. We've talked about how we can quantify that. We can do it through words. We can do it through a table, a graphic representation with a curve. And then we talked about other things besides price that can affect demand. The last thing is when we analyze demand, what we want to do sometimes is see is our particular products, particular sectors, particular industries basically viable to a price change or susceptible to a price change. And so the last thing in this unit that we look at is price elasticity of demand. Basically, if we have a change in demand, is that change in demand very likely to cause a great change in the quantity demanded by consumers? Is it likely to not cause any change at all? Or is it likely to cause a change that is representative or equal to the change of price? So basically, when we have a change in price, does it change demand a lot? Does it change demand a little? Or does it change it just about the same as the change in price? That's what we're looking at. So when we talk about price elasticity, that's what we are. We're measuring the relative responsiveness of a product's demand based off of the price change. And that's all it is, right? So let's say we go back to the soda example on campus, right? We have $1. We sell sodas for $1 out of the machines here on campus. Let's say that that price goes up to $2. That's quite a big jump, right? From $1 to $2. Is that dollar change in the price of a can of soda, is that going to affect demand a lot, a little, or about the same? And so all we do basically is put this into, a percent change formula. So remember, percent change formula is the percent change basically of the new price and old price. So the term elastic implies, right, that we have a real change in demand based even off of a tiny percent change in price. So let's say we found that a 5% change in the price of that soda changed the quantity demanded of that soda by 10%, right? That product is elastic. That meaning we can have a really small change in price and it changes the demand more than the percentage change in the price. An inelastic demand of a product means that we could have a really big change in price, but it doesn't change demand that often. If you take, for example, heating oil in the winter in the Midwest, right? When it's 10 below zero at night, or even say Alaska, you use an example. It doesn't matter if that heating oil is $100 a barrel or $300 a barrel. You're going to use that heating oil because of where you're at. Heating oil in a cold climate in winter is going to have very little change in demand, even if the price skyrockets, because it's a necessity. It's needed for you to survive. So inelastic demand in this one, we looked at a 4% change in price only caused a 1% change in demand. And that would be an inelastic product. And then lastly, right, demand changes a lot, demand changes a little. If it changes the same as the price change, it is what is known as unitary. So elastic demand, a lot of change in demand, even on a little change of price, would be equal to 1.0 or above, or actually above 1.0. Inelastic demand is going to be below 1.0, and unitary demand is going to be exactly equal to 1.0. as I said, the demand elasticity of a product mostly has to do with, are there other products available? How important is it in your budget? And what is the time period considered? And so when you look at that, substitute products, can you replace one product with another? We talked about butter and margarine, right? You would expect the more substitute products available for a product, the more price elastic we can expect demand to be. The less products available, we can expect demand to be inelastic, right? Heating oil in the winter in a cold climate. The importance of the product, I should say product, not process, in the consumer's budget, right? And I gave you two examples here. Most people, right, table salt and sugar are going to be a very small percentage of a person's budget. You can buy basically a replacement for your salt shakers that's going to last you like 2 years. I can't remember the last time we bought salt, right? So even if you make $30,000 a year, that container of salt that you buy for $2 to $3 lasts you for 2 or 3 years. That table salt could go up to $10 for that container. It's still going to last you 3 years. It's not going to change the demand that much. Now, if, right, it's a product that takes a large percentage of a person's budget, that's going to tend to be more elastic. Even a small change in price is going to have a great change in the quantity demanded. That's why you see the number of televisions around the Super Bowl go on sale for a couple of $100s off, and the demand for those skyrocket during that time period. Same thing with large appliances, refrigerators, freezers, washers, dryers, things like that. And then the time period considered again, right? In the summertime, heating oil could drop in 50% in terms of prices. If you've got nowhere to store it, demand's not going to change that much. Heating oil in the wintertime could go up 50%, and it doesn't matter. People need the heating oil. They're going to buy it. Right? Questions on that? Okay. So on the next page is the second assignment for this unit. And it basically just talks about demand. And it's very simple. You're just going to say it goes up, it goes down, it stays the same. So if the population of a particular area, country, state, if the population increases, we would expect to see demand increase, right? If a whole bunch of people die, we would expect demand to decrease. So all you're going to do is read these scenarios and put in demand increases, demand decreases, goes up, goes down, and could possibly stay the same, right? So for this unit, you'll want to do the, I think this is the right one, yep. The demand case study about car devaluation, and then whether this increases or decreases demand based on the information that they gave you in the terms of determinant demand. Then tomorrow we'll review both the case study and this assignment, and then do a review and give you some time to do the unit test on this unit, which is unit 4. That means basically we're halfway through everything that goes on in the